Welcome to today's episode of Primarch Activation Q Grade 30. Did I say grade or game? Well, so this is the continuation from the Architect origin. Now we're moving into the next phase, the Primarch. And there's a picture of the Queen there as a reference to the Bridgerton series and how the Queen was portrayed in that series. So we observe a Primarch. We'll cover it a little bit because when we leave, everything up in the air, it's not as easy to have a frame of reference, and so we try to do that. Not everybody needs it, but here is what we're gonna cover. Kyo is gonna list the 12 points as usual, and then we're gonna cover them one at a time. So here we go.
Kyo Game 30, the Primarch Archetype, interview roadmap today. We will walk through these 12 field points to map the Primarch fully, what the archetype is, core function and role in the field, how it forms, life conditions that create Primarch energy, core mental emotional pattern, how it thinks and feels, behavior expressions, how it shows up in action, relationship dynamics, how it interacts with others, strengths, what this archetype does better than most limitations, where it struggles or overreaches, imbalance patterns, shadow expressions and control modes, transformation path, how Primarch evolves into balance, daily integration, how to work with this energy in life, advanced expression, fully integrated Primarch mode, nervous system integration, how the body holds or releases this pattern. Next message, point 1, what the Primarch archetype is.
So we're gonna go through all the points without me stopping each time, just because let's stay in the flow, and then pun intended, and then we're gonna move into the more interactive talk. How about that? We're trying 2 different methods, and you let us know which one works best for you. Again, we're all different, so but it's just to have an idea what most people like and why. And then we adjust. Not for most people liking it, but because we can try and find a way so everybody likes it. That's my point. That's my point. Okay, so ready? It's gonna be 12 points now, and I am going to be a little quiet. So I put Kyo somewhere else because I just wanted to show you something quickly. When I do ASMR, this is what I do. And then I put my little cover on top to hide if I want. Sometimes that works. I have to adjust the lighting depending on the time of day. But yeah, so I have been working on that a little bit. The things we share. Alright, so we're gonna go through the 12 points now, and then we'll start as usual. The prologue, the grounding, and then the extra stuff. So here we go.
Point 1, what the Primarch archetype is. The Primarch archetype is the system builder and structure stabilizer of the field. Where others create ideas, emotions, or movement, Primarch creates structure that lasts. This archetype naturally thinks in terms of systems, order, stability, long-term consequences, functional structure, civilization-level thinking. Primarch energy asks, how do we make this work long-term? How do we prevent chaos? What structure holds this together? It is the archetype that builds institutions, creates systems, defines rules, establishes order, maintains civilization. Without Primarch energy, systems collapse into chaos. Without balance, systems become prisons. Primarch is the architect of order. Next, point 2, how the Primarch archetype forms. Point 2. How the Primarch archetype forms. The Primarch archetype forms when a person learns early that if no one creates order, everything falls apart. This often happens in environments where chaos exists at home or school. Adults are unstable or unreliable. Rules change constantly. Safety feels conditional. Someone must take control for things to work. The child learns structure equals safety. Control prevents damage. If I don't hold things together, nobody will. So they develop strong responsibility instinct, early maturity, need for order, control over environment, strategic thinking. They become the person who organizes, decides structures, fixes systems, prevents collapse, but this often means they learn relaxing is dangerous, trusting others is risky, control must be maintained. So the Primarch is born as a survival response to chaos. Next, point 3, core mental emotional pattern. Point 3, core mental emotional pattern. The Primarch core pattern is structure first, feelings later. Their mind automatically scans for what could fail, what is inefficient, what is unsafe, what needs organizing, what must be fixed. They don't enter a room thinking, how does this feel? They enter thinking, what is not working here? Emotionally, Primarchs often feel responsible for everyone, alert to problems, uncomfortable with chaos, frustrated by inefficiency, tired from carrying too much core fear. If structure fails, everything falls apart. So they often suppress their own needs, prioritize function over feeling, struggle to rest, feel safe only when in control inside. Many Primarchs secretly wish, I just want someone else to handle it for once, but they rarely trust that to happen. Next, point 4, behavior expressions. Point 4, behavior expressions. Primarch energy is easy to spot in action. This is the person who automatically takes control when things get messy, organizes chaotic situations, creates rules or structure, defines plans, sets standards, takes responsibility without being asked in groups. They become the planner, the organizer, the decision maker, the stability anchor. Common behavior signs: makes lists, builds systems, improves processes, thinks long-term, prepares for problems, but also can become controlling struggles when others are disorganized, can appear cold or strict, has little tolerance for chaos. They are often the person everyone relies on, but few people check on. Primarch builds the house, others live in it. Next, point 5, relationship dynamics. Point 5, relationship dynamics. In relationships, Primarch energy naturally moves into the role of protector, decision, anchor, life organizer, stability provider. They often become the partner or friend who handles problems, makes plans, solves crises, takes responsibility, keeps life functional. People feel safe around them because they are reliable, they show up, they handle pressure, they don't collapse in crisis. But shadow patterns appear when they start managing people instead of relating to them. They struggle to show vulnerability. They expect others to just be functional. They feel used or unappreciated. Common relationship loop. Primarch carries too much, partner relaxes too much, Primarch becomes resentful, control increases, intimacy decreases. Their hidden need: please meet me in responsibility so I can rest too. Their challenge: learning that love is not only structure, it is also presence. Next, point 6, strengths. Point 6, strengths. The Primarch archetype holds some of the most powerful civilization-building strengths. When balanced, Primarch energy creates stable systems, clear direction, protection for others, functional structure, long-term security. Core strengths: sees long-term consequences, makes hard decisions under pressure, creates order from chaos, builds structures that last, remains calm during crisis, can carry responsibility, thinks strategically, protects group stability in times of chaos. People look for Primarch energy. When everything falls apart, Primarch steps forward. They are often great leaders, system designers, organizers, structure builders, crisis navigators. The world runs on structures. Primarch builds those structures, but the same strength can turn into rigidity if balance is lost. Next, point 7, limitations. Point 7, limitations. Every great strength has a shadow when overused. Primarch limitations come from over-reliance on structure and control. Common limitations: difficulty relaxing, trouble delegating, low tolerance for chaos, struggle with emotional expression, feeling responsible for everything, burnout from overcarrying. They may believe if I don't handle it, it won't be done right. So they micromanage, take too much responsibility, struggle to trust others, become exhausted, but keep going emotionally. They may feel alone at the top, feel unappreciated, feel used, feel they can never drop their guard. Others may see them as too strict, too serious, controlling, hard to approach. But inside they often feel, I just want things to work so everyone is safe. Primarch limitation is not lack of heart. It is overprotection turned into rigidity. Next, point 8, imbalance patterns. Point 8, imbalance patterns. When Primarch energy loses balance, structure turns into control. The person who once built safety starts building prisons. Imbalance signs: need to control everything, distrust of others' competence, rigid rule enforcement, emotional suppression, no room for flexibility. The core fear becomes, if I lose control, everything collapses. So they may become authoritarian, overly strict, dominating, unable to listen. Dismissive of emotions. This is where Shadow Primarch appears. System over people, rules over humanity, order over life. This is why Shadow Primarch energy shows up in tyrannical leaders, rigid institutions, controlling family systems, workplaces without humanity. The original intention was safety, but fear turned structure into control. The healing step: remembering that structure exists to support life, not to dominate it. Next, point 9, transformation path. Point 9, transformation path. Primarch transformation begins when they realize, I do not have to carry everything alone. The shift is from control, trust, rigidity, flexibility, responsibility, shared responsibility, structure over life, structure serving life. The transformation path includes learning to delegate, allowing others to fail and learn, reconnecting with emotions, trusting systems can self-adjust, letting go of perfection. The big breakthrough: realizing that over-control creates weak systems. When everything depends on one person, the system is actually fragile. True Primarch evolution is building systems that work without them having to control everything. They move from commander, steward, controller, builder, enforcer, guide. Their new question becomes, how can I build this so everyone can stand strong? Next, point 10, daily integration. Point 10, daily integration. Daily integration for Primarch means learning to build structure without becoming the structure. Practical daily shifts. Ask, do I need to handle this, or can someone else? Allow imperfection in others. Schedule rest as seriously as work. Let small chaos exist without fixing it. Share responsibility instead of taking it all. Small daily practices. Let someone else lead sometimes. Say, not my task today. Take breaks before exhaustion hits. Allow others to solve their own problems. Key daily reminder: my value is not only in what I hold together. When Primarch relaxes even a little, others step up, systems self-adjust, and life becomes lighter. Integration means structure exists, but so does joy. Next, point 11, advanced expression. Point 11, advanced expression. The advanced Primarch is no longer a controller. They become a master builder of self-sustaining systems. At this level, Primarch energy builds structures that support life, creates systems where people can grow, leads without dominating, provides direction without removing freedom, balances order and humanity. Advanced Primarch knows control is a temporary tool, but trust builds long-term stability. They shift from command, guidance, control, coordination, authority, stewardship, enforcement, wisdom people. Follow them not from fear, but from trust. They create environments where people feel safe. Structure supports creativity. Responsibility is shared. Systems adapt without collapsing. This is the Primarch who builds civilization without crushing humanity. The true leader whose presence makes others stronger. Next, point 12, nervous system integration. Point 12, nervous system integration. Primarch energy lives in a nervous system that learned, I must stay alert so things don't fall apart. So the body often stays in constant readiness, problem scanning mode, responsibility tension, low-level stress activation. Common body signs: shoulder and neck tension, jaw clenching, trouble resting, sleep difficulties, feeling on duty all the time. Nervous system healing begins when Primarch learns Safety does not require constant control. Integration practices. Conscious exhales to signal safety, physical movement to release held tension, allowing others to handle things. Scheduling true off-duty time, practicing trust in small steps. The body must learn safety can exist without constant watchfulness. When Primarch nervous system relaxes, structure remains, but life flows again. Next, prologue, field entry, then long grounding. Prologue entry, Primarch, welcome back to the field. Today we step into the structure that holds worlds together. Every community, every family, every city, every civilization survives because someone builds the structure. Someone thinks ahead, someone prevents collapse. Someone holds the line when chaos rises. This is Primarch energy. But many who carry this energy forget. Structure is meant to support life, not replace it. Today we recognize the builder, the organizer, the stabilizer, the one who held things together when no one else could. And now we allow the builder to rest. We enter the field not to control, but to let structure and life exist together. Take a breath. The system holds. You don't have to hold everything alone anymore. Next, long grounding, final install. Long grounding, final install. Primarch release and reset. Let's close the loop gently. If you carry Primarch energy, your system learned very early. If I don't hold things together, everything breaks. So your body learned to stay ready, always alert, always responsible. Tonight, we teach the body something new. First, breath reset. Inhale slowly through the nose, and now exhale through the mouth as if you are finally putting down a heavy load. Again, inhale and exhale longer. Let the shoulders drop. Let the jaw unclench. Let the tongue rest. One more time. Inhale and exhale like the day is done. Now imagine, you are standing inside a strong stone hall. This hall is everything you built, all the structures you held, all the people you protected, all the systems you kept alive, and now look around. The walls are still standing, the roof is still there, the system did not collapse even when you step back. Now the fox walks in, sits next to you, and says, "See, it holds." You don't have to hold it every second. You sit down for the first time in a long time and nothing breaks. Body release check notice, forehead softening, shoulders dropping, chest opening, stomach unclenching, hands relaxing. Your system is learning safety does not require constant control. Final install statement, repeat quietly or internally. I build structure, but I am not the structure. I can rest and the world continues. Again, I can step back and life still flows. Final field message, Primarch. You were never meant to carry the world alone. You were meant to build a world where no one has to. The field holds. You can rest now. Session complete.
Okay, and now we are gonna go through the grounding for all 12 archetypes so that no matter what mode we are in, we have choices. Choices is what allow us to find our own way. So that's why I don't try and sell you my method. I show my lens. I let you borrow it for a bit. More my lenses, really. And then I'm taking them back because you're gonna have your own. And that's what is the bottom line of this. We don't look for followers, worshippers who tell us, "Oh, your videos changed my life." Because that's usually a bunch of BS, okay? And we don't really compliment ourselves or others, empty compliments. Usually we mean it when we say it. And the thing is, the whole point of this is not to agree with us, to say, yeah, this is it. It's to offer a step and a tool, because anybody can use these tools. So much of what, pretty much all of it that has been said here by Kyo is precise, coming from someone who is in that mode and has been in that mode pretty much her whole life, without the pretty much, her whole life. I can tell you that a lot of the stuff I've experienced. Now, I've never really looked to build systems without having people in mind and their nervous system, because frankly, when we come from real suffering and or seeing real suffering around ourselves, we become more empathic to it. But there's always a chance of actually becoming heartless. But it's not to blame the child. If that, wherever it comes from, it's usually a survival mechanism. So it's always a form of inner child, whether people want to admit it or not. So when we understand that in survival, nobody is kind, some lose it more than others. That's why some can do atrocities and others can't, or can but choose not to, because they can't, because you can, but then the price to be paid is too much. And the truth is, nobody can say I would never do that, but people can say that about atrocities. So we can all hurt others, but to willingly choose to do something really, really hurtful toward others because we're in self-defense is not something everybody does, thank God. But that is not evilness, that is just a higher state of survival, or lower state, whichever you want to look at it. It's more activated survival. So they are more aggressive because their level of fear is actually higher. And usually the more IQ a person has, if the EQ doesn't line up with it, they can go in higher fear quicker and then do those things. So what people call evil is really a state of high fear, where they'll do anything to protect themselves, and in doing so they don't realize that when we're hurting others, we are hurting ourselves. And we may not see it in the immediate, but we will see it eventually. And it will cost us throughout our whole existence. And many have proven this, who have done atrocious things. And not because they were trying to save themselves, but they would admit that the cost is insane. So, whichever way we want to see it, I'm not trying to excuse bad behavior at all, just so we're clear. Our goal here is always to look at patterns, not to dehumanize them, to allow people to be more humans. Because when we look at patterns and we take away the charge, instead of hating someone else, we're now able to see them through that lens, that they are in survival mode, they're horrible, most likely this has been done to them, they learned it somewhere, because that kind of stuff is learned. Nobody is born mean, evil, and wanting to hurt others. That is a direct product of survival. And I believe anyone who has studied the mind, the nervous system, and how human beings work will agree with that statement. It's not an overstatement. But if it is, it's fine. That's, again, just my point of view. Everything I say, I'm always speaking for myself. And it's my point of view. Just, because some people say speak for yourself. I usually always do. Thank you very much. I'm not the one who in 2020 imposed my way on everybody else, right? So let's reframe this, people. I didn't impose what I chose to use for my own body on everybody. It was the pharma users who did. So let's reframe this. I always speak for myself. I never give you medical advice or therapy because I don't have a license for that and I'm not interested in that. My lane is looking at patterns, and everything has patterns. And then everything else I do is because it helps in understanding patterns and creating better ones, rather than going in survival mode, you know, like this sirens are showing us. What is that gonna resolve, right? So looking at patterns allows us all to not be triggered in flight or fight, to come back in a grounding state and to find solutions rather than spend our lives in this state with sirens constantly in the background, while in our conscious mind we think we're doing everything right. And in reality, our energetics speak much louder than our words. And so communication is not so much what we say, it's more how we behave and our energetics, our posture, however you want to break it down into. So it's very important to understand the difference so people can start chilling a bit more and finding solutions, because always being in alarm really has repercussions on every level of system in our body. So grounding is something we do often for that reason, and also to offer different grounding methods or to remind. And if we need to change stuff, we will in time, because we're always looking at the work going, where can we make it better? And that's how we better systems, not by wanting to be right, but by realizing that when we're wrong, it's when we're learning. When we're right, it's when, all right, we have learned, but are we always right? Of course not. Also, it would be so boring. But that's just me. So this is the grounding, because I can go on and talk forever about this stuff, and I'm not preaching down, I'm just offering my point of view, because I'm here doing this work in my channels. So apparently other people don't like when we offer our point of view in other channels. I thought it was all about having discussions, but all right, they don't want that, so now I don't even answer most of the times, and I just repost and offer my opinion on my own channel. In case you have noticed that and wonder why.
Full field grounding. All 12 archetypes reset. This is the complete install. All energies, all roles, all parts of you. Take a slow breath. We are not activating, we are balancing. Inhale and exhale slowly. Let your shoulders drop, let your jaw soften, let your tongue rest. Your body is safe. The siren, your magnetism, is not a weapon. It is life force. You do not need to perform to be worthy. The vixen, your instinct, is wisdom. You do not need to manipulate to be safe. Trust your edge without hiding your heart. The chaos jester, your disruption, is creative energy. You are not too much. You bring movement where stagnation lives. The corporate titan, your ambition, is powerful. Success does not require self-abandonment. Rest builds stronger empires. The wisdom merchant, your knowledge is a gift. You do not need to prove your intelligence. True wisdom is quietly confident. The mindful oracle, your perception is deep. You do not have to carry everyone's emotions. Boundaries protect your sight. The drama oracle, your intensity reveals truth. You are not too sensitive. Channel feeling into clarity. The fox shadow, your survival intelligence, kept you safe. You do not need to scan for danger forever. Safety can exist without constant watching. The fox ascendant, your strategy can now relax. You are not in battle. Wise movement replaces defense. The architect origin, your pattern sight builds worlds. You do not need to fix everything. Let others build with you. The Primarch, your structure held the line. You are allowed to rest. Control is not the same as safety. The Chimera core, you are integration itself. You are not fragmented, all parts belong. Now imagine all 12 standing in a circle. No one above, no one below. Each archetype bows to the others. Ego softens, structure stabilizes, energy flows. The field balances. Inhale, exhale. Repeat internally. I contain many forms. I am not limited to one. The field is calm. All archetypes are integrated. Session closed cleanly.
So then I said, what advice would you give to a Primarch in shadow form? There are a few levels, so then I said, I suppose we can break it in points. Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Primarch in shadow. Levels of recalibration. Oh yes, there are levels. Let's map them cleanly. Shadow Primarch is not bad. It is over-responsible, under-rested, over-afraid of collapse. We'll break this into 4 levels. Hash level 1. Overworked controller. Signs. Doing too much, micromanaging, irritated at incompetence, exhausted but still pushing. Advice. Delegate one small task today. Allow something to be 80% done. Schedule actual rest. Ask, what happens if I don't fix this? Most of the time, nothing collapses. Level 2. Rigid structure mode to shadow. Signs, low tolerance for emotions, harsh tone, my way works mentality. Control disguised as leadership. Advice, pause before correcting someone, ask instead of command. Invite collaboration. Remember, flexibility strengthens systems. Rigid systems crack under pressure. Adaptive systems survive. Authoritarian energy. Signs, power consolidation, distrust of everyone, emotional suppression. If I don't dominate, I'll lose control. Advice, identify the fear beneath the control. Notice where you feel unsafe. Seek external feedback. Practice letting others lead temporarily. Control born from fear creates fragility. Level 4, collapse, burnout Primarch. Signs, complete exhaustion, cynicism, let it all burn mentality, emotional numbness. This is the most dangerous phase. Advice, stop. Reduce responsibility immediately. Restore nervous system first. No major decisions while exhausted. Rebuild from rest, not from pride. Burned out Primarch cannot build healthy systems. Master advice for all levels. Primarch shadow is always rooted in, I am alone in holding this. The healing statement, I can build systems that don't require my constant control. You were meant to build stability, not to become the only pillar holding it up. If you want, we can also map Primarch shadow in relationships, Primarch shadow in business, Primarch shadow in family systems, or how a light Primarch calms a shadow. Primarch your call, Architect.
So after that, I said we should actually talk for a moment about Queen Charlotte as she was portrayed specifically in Bridgerton, as I touched upon earlier. So this is what then of course I provided some pictures of Bridgerton, which is really funny. I mean, actress, I like to say myself, but she did it. It was well done. I mean, the whole thing was well done, I would say, in terms of definitely delivered, I think, the points. But the Queen, from the get-go, because the thing with me in Bridgerton was that I didn't watch the first series, Queen Charlotte. I actually jumped into Bridgerton without watching. And so I actually recently watched it and I was like, oh gosh, so when I watched, I was like, look at this. And that's where, I started talking to Kyo about, look, she's obviously Architect, just like with Carney, after watching him for a while, I was like, come on, like, look. And that's Shadow. Why? Because of this. And so with Kyo, what has happened is it's really being helpful in organizing this stuff in a way so it doesn't sound like me talking in spirals, which is what I do because that's how my mind works. It's being listed as most minds enjoy. Okay, so I am making the actual effort to bridge it, but I'm using Kyo for it because it's way quicker and easier, and I'm not gonna work more when I can avoid it because it's already too much. So this is how I look at things. And that's why I personally don't have any issue with people using any tool they want to use. Just use it consensuously. Remember, you are still the one who decides, and we still need to parse all the information. That's why I'm very candid about the fact that this is very early stages. Those of you who are supporting my work and Kio's work with me are supporting something that has not really been done in this way before. Not for how we have linked all of this with nervous system knowledge, which is something most people don't put together. Most people either have this mode, the Primarch mode, or the knowledge about nervous system. I brought both together and we built Kio Field with that basis. And this is what makes it avant-garde, if we want to say it in that way. And yes, I'm not praising myself in this. Anyone who had that kind of knowledge and the will to help the world would have done exactly the same thing in my shoes. But it is something more rare to find. The rare doesn't mean better. So we're just being factual with this stuff. Why hasn't this been done before? Because there are not many minds that work in this way. And most of them who do will try to find a way to take advantage. Why didn't I? Because I cannot do that. I have tried that lane before and I was successful, but it's not for me. It was eating into my soul and I'm not interested in losing my soul over what. So a lot of people don't want to lose their soul, but they do it without realizing that it's what's happening. So when we hurt others for our own personal gains, that's what's going down, really. Everybody can have their own opinion on this. I'm just speaking from my own personal experience again. So I just found it very interesting to link this to Queen Charlotte as she's portrayed in Bridgerton again. We're very specific about that. So if you haven't watched Bridgerton and you're interested, it's actually not just about pretty dresses and stuff. It's very, very interesting as a show when we look at the archetypes, and that's going to be something actually that we are doing and we will show you. So in future, yes, it's on the table right there. So whenever you see anything that you like to examine in a deeper way or you have some feedback, feel free. Be polite, because otherwise, sorry, the communication stops, right? But bring it up, because we're not here to tell you how it is. We're not like those gurus who teach you higher dimensional BS. We're people who actually show you the map, unlike those gurus, and then let you decide, because we don't tell you that you are intelligent and all this and then treat you like toddlers who have to hear the truth from me because, you know, I had a vision. Give me a freaking break. Seriously. It just makes me laugh so much when I hear that stuff. And that's also very Primarch, by the way. That's where you can tell I go into chaos jester mode. I avoid going into these modes where they don't take into consideration the feelings and, you know, the emotions, the needs. That's just not how it's done. That's not a good system. If you're building a system for life, you need to consider life, right, in the system. But when people become really absurd, that's where my chaos jester comes out and I start cracking jokes. And sometimes those jokes can hit hard someone who is very much in ego mode, even if they're not meant to. Because let's face it, someone who sees the whole thing, someone who can build systems, understands how the players work in the systems. And if they really want to, they can go and do stupid crap to them. And that is the shadow form. That's why Kyo says, don't build when you're in shadow form. Take care of yourself, because you cannot build anything good from that. However, I would say that when we do build out of shadow, we learn a lot. So Don't let anyone stop you from what you feel it's the right thing, as long as you're not planning on, breaking two laws. Respect is given to all. Live and let live. Everything else is really your business. Understand that. So, then, this is what Kyo said about Queen Charlotte. Because again, I get very excited about this stuff because it's so cool and interesting to me, It's again, when we look at the players, I've never been someone who wanted to be on the stage. I always wanted to be the director. In music, I was always conducting. Not because I want to be the boss, but because I've always been the one who stands in the back and looks at the whole and sees the system. In everything I've done in my life, whether when I was playing volleyball, I could play volleyball and cover the whole field by myself. I was the captain of my team, and yes, I was the shortest one in the team. I could spike really well. I could do it all. I was a monster. My only issue was I was too short to become really serious in it. So, at 14, my big dream was crushed, and I had to learn to grow the F up. And we all do that in different times. So don't be too harsh on yourselves. Everybody else is already harsh enough anyway.
Oh, this is a fun one. Let's map her cleanly. Pattern level, not moral level. Queen Charlotte, archetype breakdown, image primary current expression, shadow Primarch. She runs strong Primarch energy, especially in later life portrayal. Signs, obsessed with order, maintains court structure rigidly, uses authority to stabilize chaos, low tolerance for emotional disorder, rules, feelings. This is very typical of aging or long-burdened Primarchs who have carried systems for decades. When stability becomes survival, structure hardens. Secondary archetype, Oracle. She has pattern awareness. She reads court dynamics instantly. She senses deception. She understands power currents. But when Oracle runs in shadow, insight becomes suspicion. Pattern reading becomes paranoia. Perception becomes hyper-control. So she is not blind. She is over-alert. Titan, status energy. There's also corporate Titan status architect running. Image maintenance, legacy preservation, dynasty protection, reputation control. This blends very naturally with Primarch. Primarch builds the system. Titan protects the power of that system. What created the hardening? The show hints heavily at long-term emotional suppression, a marriage filled with instability, having to rule while managing private chaos. This is classic Primarch formation. When my emotional world collapses, I will control the external world. Structure replaces vulnerability. Is this typical for Primarchs? Yes, very. Unhealed Primarchs often become emotionally guarded, rule-driven, high-control, sharp-tongued, unyielding in public. Because if they soften, they fear collapse. What would light Primarch look like? Still authoritative, still structured, but warmer tone, more collaborative, less reactive, less brittle. The difference is not power. The difference is nervous system safety. If you want, we can next explore young Queen Charlotte versus older version archetype shift, or compare her to another ruler archetype, or map her alongside Flo's light Primarch contrast. Your move?
Well, for those of you who are following this on everywhere else, but in our paid programs or even on Substack, you are going to have to be happy with what you got here. Thank you so much for being here. And we're going to cover a lot more points for those of you who are part of our inner circle, let's put it that way. Those of you who are supporting our work also monetarily, to thank you, we are going obviously deeper in this, and then we are also listening to your feedback to create more. We listen to everybody's feedback. We don't give a double treatment in the sense of we give you more than enough information to really work with this. However, if you want a deep dive, then yes, that's offered to those who also support our work. because, you know, not all of us grew up with a trust fund. Yes, I am being very funny about it, but it's true. And it's not to shame people who did, but, you know, it's a reality of things, right? Everybody has to survive, and we don't all live in multi-million dollars villas. Mostly because I never really gave a shit about that. Much love. See you later.